Hi, welcome. Hi guys, how you doing? Yeah, today I'm going to talk about connection distribution methods when load balancing. One of the questions we often get asked, and I get asked this quite a bit, I used to get asked this quite a bit when in support, was what balance mode should I use on the load balance? For me, we're getting to it, and we're getting to the reasons why. Okay, because I have a preference and I have one that it's like I still don't know why it's there. So let's go and have a look at the load balancer quickly, and we're kind of getting to which one I think should be in 99.9% of the time your preferred method. Let's go and have a look. Looking at the load balancer, we can see connection distribution method here, and we have weighted least connection and weighted round robin. With that in mind, and with that in mind, two methods, right? And we got persistence. So we're getting to a bit of persistence later, but first of all, we're going to start with weighted round robin, which is this method here, right? And why I don't think you should use this one. It is, like it says on the tin, round robin. Okay, so it is weighted, i.e., if you put a weight on a server, say one's 50, one's 20, one's 100, one's whatever, the one with 100, it's going to send the most connections to, in essence, okay, by weight. So if there's one's a different weight down there and you've got for 3, 4 servers, it's going to pick the ones with the highest, work its way. It's going to have that as a metric. Yeah, because we're kind of saying, what can my servers handle? In essence, in this day and age, right? This is 2022, not the year 2000. I can't remember the time that I've ever built a group of servers with different RAM allocation and different processor allocation. I just can't. Not since the early 2000s. I can't. Especially when we move into VMware, etc. And you you just don't do it. And here's the reason why. If I'm tasked with looking at a service we're going to deliver in the past, here's the service type, go off, work out what servers we need, how many we need, how many vCPUs, how many, how, how much RAM we need, go off and do that as part of the project, bring it to us. That's what we'll build once we've designed it, design it, scope it out, and for a POC, do what you need to do. So I go off, I say, okay, I'm building, say, a Citrix farm. I'm not going to build the back end servers, one with 12 gigabytes of RAM and 4 CPUs, and the second one with 2 CPUs and 4 gigabytes. I'm not going to do that. Okay. I may start with 2 servers, yeah, with 2 vCPUs and 4 gigabytes of RAM and work my way up if that's what I think we require as part of the project. But I want my user experience on both servers to be exactly the same. Okay, so I'm not looking to grab 2 bits of tin that aren't identical if they're bits of tin. No, I'm gonna order 2 bits of tin. They're exactly, because if one fails, my user experience on server 2 is going to be absolutely horrible. Makes no sense at all. No one's doing that. No one's doing that. In any professional environment, no one's doing that anymore. And exactly for that reason. Because in the event of failure, we want our users to somewhat not notice it, if notice it at all. Okay, with the experience. So we want the experience on server 1 and server 2 to be exactly the same. We want to allocate exactly the same vCPUs or CPUs, exactly the same RAM specification. So we know that server 1 and server 2 are literally identical. We want the software to be identical. We want the whole OS to be identical. We want everything installed on both servers to be identical. In the eventuality that we lose one, that users still have access to absolutely everything exactly the same as if nothing had happened. Yeah, maybe if it goes on for too long, we can't bring up server 2 or server 1. But in a VMware environment, we can quickly clone, spin up, get everything back working, pull out a backup, whatever it needs to get the server back operational. But it will have exactly the same specification as the server that went down. Yeah. So in this day and age, I would say that my preference, or 99.99% of the time, you don't use weighted round robin and you use weighted least connections. To me, it just makes more sense because if server 1 goes down, it doesn't overload the server. Okay. I.e., in round robin, if server 1 goes down, yeah, this goes down, and server 2's still up, it's going to feed all the connections to server 2. Okay, they're both on 100. That's their metric, so it doesn't matter. When this server 1 comes back up, it's going to go back to round robin. This server 2 is going to become overloaded. Eventually, you're like, I don't understand it. I do. You picked round robin. It's doing exactly what is written on the tin. Yeah, but it's weighted. Yeah, but both your servers are weighted at 100 because they should be. Okay? Because they're exactly the same. The problem here is the balancing method you use. What I would move to, and this is normally what I have, I always try to set when I'm doing a load balancing method across servers that are completely identical, whether it's 2 or 6 or 9 or 20, is weighted least connection. Because all my servers are exactly the same. So they all can all be set to 100. I want them to all accept connections. You're exact clones of each other. And what I want you to do is take that into account of how many connections are on each server. And I want you to make sure that as best as humanly possible, right, this server may have a network interruption. It distributes across here. So this one comes back up. Network interruption resolved. Oh, I'm going to stick some more connections over here over the few hours and then go back to these ones. Okay, it's going to try with the algorithm to take connections into an account, and it's going to take the weight into account. So it's got more metrics, definitely a better way to go, in my opinion. Now, persistence does play with that a little, especially in round robin state, especially if you set persistence really high, 16 hours of persistence. I have no idea why anyone personally would set more than 2 hours. If you think I'm wrong, that you need more than 2 hours, I'm happy to listen. But let's just say I've got a meeting. I go off to the meeting and I'm in there for an hour. I come out of the meeting, I go back to my desk, carry on with my session. Absolutely fine. Meeting overruns, let's say an hour and 45. Absolutely fine. Come back to my desk, carry on from where I go. It's very rare, even if I went out to lunch, that I would come back and find that my session isn't in a good state. Right? Because it's about session state. Okay? It's not just session state of what's going through the load balancer, it's session state on the server at the back end. Because it's time, maybe 2 hours. Stale RDP sessions or remote sessions, terminal sessions, after about 2, maybe 4 hours, Windows, especially Windows as an OS, doesn't really like it. They start to, what I like to say is degrade their processes. Because they're in a state that nothing's really happening. And, well, what should I do with these? Well, eventually I'm going to close them off or disconnect them, at least on the server. Yeah. So you try to connect Citrix still, or whatever you're using, app or whatever, still tries to connect and it gets refused because the session it's trying to connect to the server on is in a broken state. And this is where it comes to good habits, right? And this is why we come with best practice, not best practice, but good practice. Good practice is if you're away for more than 2 hours from your desk, hey, set to 4, it's fine. But anything around that, save what you're doing and log out. Simple as that. Because that server may need to go through maintenance every night, especially if it's a virtual server, a Citrix server to pick up new images, changes, whatever it is. Whatever it is, there's going to be a maintenance schedule built into most servers or most environments. Okay? Help out your IT team, help you. Because I can understand it as a user, there's probably nothing more frustrating than going to your desk, coming back in the morning, you're trying to get to whatever applications you're trying to get to, and you're having some sort of difficulty. First thing in the morning, IT is rubbish. 95% of the time, it's not the IT, it's good practice hasn't been utilized. Yeah. And by that, I mean that as a user of a system, whether we're going into a gym, let's just say we're going into a gym, we still need to observe good practice in the gym, right? Whether it's around the weight room, we need to use those correctly, or we're going into a restaurant. Yeah. Still observe good practices. The same with IT systems. You need to observe good practices for the health of those IT systems because they're there to serve you, look after you, make sure everything works for you. But that means that you've got to observe some good practices as a user of those systems. And one of those I would say would be, hey, if you're away for more than 2 hours, you should be logging out. That should be company policy at this point, right? If you're away definitely more than 4 hours, definitely log out. And make sure you do Control Alt Delete. Yeah, the same as we tell users as part of our IT policies, our security policies. Yeah, that when you're not at your desk and you're going to be away, yeah, I'm not saying you just turned around to your colleague to have a quick conversation. I mean, you've gone off, going to be away for 5-10 minutes. You've gone to the kitchen to make a cup of tea. Maybe you bumped into one of your colleagues. You're having a chat about some project that you're both working on. You should have controlled or deleted and locked your desk. Yeah. So observing good practices means that people have less issues. Because if you have a 16-hour persistence window, when that server reboots or whatever, or and that user thinks he's coming back to the same, it's not going to be the same session. It just isn't. That session is likely to have gone stale, eroded, and fell over. It's not good practice to have super long persistence windows. I've seen it time and time again in different environments where people have tried to set really high persistence windows. I'm like, well, when's that session ever going to come to an end? Because they tend to begin to complain about performance of their session and performance of their, yeah, because you had this session open 16 hours. It's not in a good state. You need to just log out, log back in, fix. Simple fixes that we can do as users of IT systems that make everyone's life easier, whether they're the IT guy, your manager, or yourself as a user. Anyway, that's my thoughts on connection distribution methods and persistence, how best to use them. And if you're using our or at least this load balancer, then definitely one of the things I like to just make sure people do is click the stick on drain. Because when it is time to do maintenance, one of the things we also see is, hey, we started draining, but users are still loading on the server. Yeah, because you set a persistence window. Yeah, your persistence adds to that stick table. Stick me on this table. So make sure if you're at layer 7, it's a layer 7 VIP. Yeah, click stick on drain. Make sure that that is ticked. If you've got a very long persistence window, it will just make your life as an administrator and the user's life easier. Anyway, that's my thoughts. Thank you for watching. Hope you like this video. Check in again soon. Peace.